Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank the witnesses for coming in. Ms. Mills, I've heard you say disbar 3 or 4 times as the goal. I heard Mr. Coots say prosecution. Do you have an aversion to prosecuting these bad actors? Or I haven't heard you mention that word. Are you willing to go after and prosecute the bad actors in this?
We are absolutely willing to go after the bad actors in any way within our power. Generally, prosecution is handled by the justice, but we are working very closely with the IG to go after them in any way and collaborate with, as GAO is as well.
I guess I'm sitting here thinking about a book I read in college about the hot stove theory, that if you touch a stove, it burns every time, and it burns hot. And if some of these people, as opposed to just changing the name of the company, going and doing another porta potty company and change the name and redo the thing over, a couple people get some pretty big fines and/or spend a little time in a camp or federal prison, maybe they would think twice about doing it. Mr. Coots, who does it right? Who is, in your opinion, you've done this a long time, you and I have had a lot of meetings together on this exact same subject. Is there anybody in the federal agencies that's doing it right, that's got the right screening policy, that has the right measures in place that you could point to and say, these are the guys that get it, everybody else needs to watch them?
Well, I'll use FEMA as an example, and in the Katrina and Rita disasters, we did extensive testing and identified 22,000 cases of fraud and abuse just for one program. So we gave them a whole series of recommendations. They implemented many of them. We went back and tested them again for Ike and Gustav, and they did much better. They were in much better position. Now, they were not an apples and apples because they were much smaller disasters, but FEMA made significant improvements in their screening eligibility process to make sure if you gave them a bogus Social Security number, whether it was by internet or by phone, they were not going to let you into the system. They were actually checking to see that the address you used was in a disaster zone, that you actually lived there before the disaster hit. They weren't doing that for Katrina and Rita. So that's an example where oversight, we had numerous hearings on both the House and Senate side, and after several years, positive improvements were made. So I think this is something that's not going to happen overnight, but we're certainly willing to work with you and the SBA to make this happen over a period of time. And
what do we, the dollar figure, I can't remember, what was the $1 billion figure that you used that this added up to in small business?
Well, $100 million for these 10 companies of just service disabled, but another $300 to $400 million of 8A, hub zone, and other federal contracts. And so this is fairly significant just for these 10 cases.
Okay, so hundreds of millions stolen from us and these disabled veterans. Let's call it what it is. They've stolen it from us. What do you need, Ms. Mills? Do we need more detectives? Do we need more attorneys, more judges? Because we can probably afford, for those hundreds of millions of dollars, we can afford more of whatever we need to do this. If we need more investigators, I'd rather cut the budget on that, add it in if it's manpower, and stop it. It hurts our veterans, but they're being stolen from now anyway. So what do we need? Is it people? Is it clerks? That's what I'd like to hear.
Yes. We are looking at all our programs overall in terms of risk management, because this has been a pervasive issue that no one has gone after these issues in a period of time. And as I testified in the last time, it's not acceptable. We are not going to be the agency of fraud, waste, and abuse and mismanagement. So this requires a systematic approach across all of these programs that we are implementing. We have begun to collaborate with other agencies on a much more aggressive basis in order to make sure things like this eligibility that we need from the Veterans Administration is available to us. That's a brand new collaboration.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. In its FY 2010 budget, you request $32 million for the administration of contracting programs. How much of this money will go to the oversight and management of the service-disabled veteran-owned small business program?
I'd like to get back to you with an exact number, but I think it's an important and relevant question.
Thank you for yielding.
Absolutely. And I just close by saying, and thanks for that figure of $32 million. We here in Congress get asked to vote on pretty large numbers of budgets across the board, but the last thing, and I don't think it's just my history in law enforcement that makes me think that, think twice when people out there, the good taxpayers paying good dollars, we're voting on this, and then it's basically being stolen. That doesn't sit well with me, and I know the rest of the panel either. So thank you, Mr. Coates. Thank you, Ms. Mills. Do everything you can. And if you need anything, just come to us. I think everybody feels the same. Thank you. I yield back.